Bring your diabetic testing supplies with Diathrive. Diathrive ships the testing supplies you need directly to you when you need them. Best of all, with plans starting as low as $8 a month, Diathrive is probably going to cost you less than what you're paying today. Diathrive is so convinced that you'll love their service, they're offering your first month of supplies free. Simply type the code DOC, D-O-C, at checkout. Diathrive.com. That's D-I-A, thrive.com.
Good afternoon. Happy Monday. Oh, it's not Monday. It's Tuesday. Yeah, I might have taken the day off yesterday. Do I really have an excuse? Maybe. Maybe my laptop is still under the weather, not feeling well. I did get it back on Friday, and I attempted to use it over the weekend, and no, it did not work. The trackpad / control board. Look, Apple, who designs a product where the master control board is underneath the trackpad where, more than likely the water's going to get spilled? And how can you not seal that thing around the edges? I'm just saying. I love your products. Easy to sync. Very disappointed in what happened when I did immediately flip the computer over after about 7, maybe 17 drops of water spilled on the trackpad and 1 drop seeped inside. But I have to say thank you because I just got a phone call. It's done. I have to say thank you to John Ford. John Ford's actually going to be on the show. He owns Fix It Planet right here in south side of downtown Fort Worth. He and his lovely wife, Cassandra. He was actually one of the early pioneers in the days of digital broadcasting and podcasting. So we will have him on the show here in next week or so. But John, owner of Fix It Planet, their number is 817-602-1160. And no, I did not get free service for this, although they did give me a good discount. I'm telling you, worth every penny you spend with them. Really, it's going to be like less than $150 to get my laptop back to brand new condition. So thank you very much. Doesn't matter if it's a Mac or a PC. Go to www.fixitplanet.com. If you're not in the area, it's probably worth shipping it in. I'm telling you, it's worth the shipping. They're fast. They're cool people. And funny little man. So, all right. It is Tuesday afternoon. I apologize for not having a show yesterday, but doing a little planning and research, I will actually be going to the National Restaurant Association show this week. Yes, that's in Chicago at McCormick Place. And it takes up I believe it's 5 acres of that location. They have everything from, coffee to, lots of alcohol. That's really my main attraction at the show. No, I'm just joking. But they have a great big stage where I guarantee you the amazing Chef Rick Bayless will be there doing a demonstration, either for Vitamix or another sponsoring company. Let's see, pretty much every major chef maybe not every major chef you can think of, but many will be there. This is the biggest show of the year. If you live in the Chicagoland proximity, within 50 miles, maybe 100 miles, it's worth the trip. Go on in for a day or spend the weekend and go in all 4 days. It's Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. It is the National Restaurant Association's food. I think it's a hotel, motel, and restaurant show. It's fantastic. If you last year, so it has significance for me because last year we did our initial recordings, the first recordings we'd ever done, and one live broadcast thanks to Kitchen Ambush. Mark Conway, Mark Lane, and Vanessa Lane. I don't think Vanessa was there, but their team. We did our first live broadcast over the Kitchen Ambush airwaves, and it's been a hell of a ride since then. We are now 1 year later, a year wiser. Yeah, it's about all I can say. A year older, a year wiser, and we're definitely have a much better grasp of what we're doing and what we're trying to achieve. But if you go back, I don't know if it's on the air anymore. I don't think we use it. We used it as filler for a long time. But those 70 or 80 interviews that we did at the event last year, a special thanks goes to Cal Alsabai, who's Doc's former partner at the other location. He spent hours and hours and hours taking these interviews, which ranged between 3 and 20 minutes, condensing them down, and then stringing them together to make, I think Ron actually strung them together to make 1 hour segments that we would play as filler. And I'll tell you, there were some amazing, companies there with unbelievable, really fun products. I think one of my favorite was the this push-up pop. It wasn't a push-up popsicle. It's like a the what are they called? The remember the really cheap popsicles when you're a kid? You just cut the top off the plastic tube, and then you get to eat the colored water. Basically, it's like frozen Kool-Aid. They had those for adults, which had alcohol in them, and they were amazing. I have to look up the name. I'd love to repost the original post we did with them in the interview, because he is such a flamboyant, cool character. You really can't help but admire his personality and the product he's created, which definitely came from that passion for life and passion for entertaining other people. So there are a bunch of other amazing products. These great, there's this one frozen eclair product. Unbelievable. I mean, they had, she had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, I want to say 7 or 8 different flavors. And every one was incredibly amazing. And her story was pretty interesting. She was a Lebanese lady who was born in Lebanon, raised in France, and then immigrated to the United States, built this company. And it was called, so patachoux is the name of the dough that you use to make cream puffs or eclairs. And it was, I have to think, it's based on that name. It was a funny play on words. But I'll look that up. I'll post it as well and see if I have some live video from that. Who else do we see there? So the host of No Butts Too Big, Miss Elisa Shakespeare, she's getting ready for the show. They typically have, in their particular hall, one of the biggest and baddest arrangements that there are. They take up 1, 2, 3, 4 spaces, so it's like 20 by 14, maybe a little bigger than that. But she owns a company called it's a Cluster Fudge is the name of their company. Cluster Fudge. So Total Cluster Fudge. And Total Cluster Fudge, they produce these amazing, rich, decadent brownies and lemon bars and just all these wonderful frozen desserts. You can buy them, I think, at Costco. And then a lot of corner stores carry them, convenience stores throughout the Midwest and across the country. And if you look for them online, it's an amazing product. Total Cluster Fudge is the name of the company. But she found out, I think she had not diabetes, she had some other issues, some health issues where she had to stop eating refined sugars. She went away from gluten. And she developed this company. It's something Grainiac. And yes, I know I should have this written down, but it just occurred to me that because I was going to talk about the food show, which I am now attending. So if you're going to be there, you're a listener, tune in, check it out. Mark Conway will also be there. He hosts, actually his show just ended right now. He had an amazing interview on Family Meal. And if you don't go check that out, then you're remiss and you're listening to Spoony Radio, because you need to listen or starve. Hashtag listen or starve. That's how you find us. Let's see. We're up on Spoony Radio, Spoony.com, Spoony Radio on all social media, or you can find us on iHeartRadio and or Spreaker at Spoony Radio. So Mark was on last year again. Mark and I had been friends on Facebook for a few years. We went around. I contacted a couple of weeks before the show and said, "Hey, are you going to be there? Can we collaborate a little bit?" And they were amazing people. So Mark Lane and Mark Conway were there with the KA team. We did some really fun live broadcasts together. And the highlight of the show probably, though, was as we toured around, Doc Thompson, the late Don Thompson, he found this cool little stand, right? And it was a very unimposing display. It was this big national distribution company that distributes nationwide. They're a big manufacturer of donuts, but they had this. They had probably Doc's favorite bite of the entire show, which was a small piece of a glazed donut, freshly baked, still warm, or freshly fried, glazed, and then cut up while it's warm with a bacon topping on it. I mean a slice of bacon. I'm going to post the picture of Doc taking that bite. If you don't think that was pure heaven for that man, then you didn't know Doc Thompson. Anyway, the show is fantastic. I can't even describe the energy there, the diversity of visitor and or attendee, and also the people that are there, as contributors or that have a booth. But it's just amazing. The variety of product is indescribable. One of the the most interesting booths that we visited, I think Tom Trost and I, we went to this one booth. It was Doc Thompson as well. There's a booth there's a company out of Japan that grows wasabi, and they had this video playing. It showed this beautiful wasabi farm, I guess you call it, and what they had is they had this huge channel. It was a stream, but they made it out of they actually concreted the entire stream in about 40 feet wide, and it ran through the entire property, so probably a half mile through their property, a little less. But they concreted the sides in, and then they put these steps. They'd flattened out the slope, perfectly level, or maybe it had a slight slope to it. And then they, at like 40 feet ahead of that, they stepped it down a foot or two, and then they leveled it out for 40 feet, then they went down a foot or two. And they have these 14 or 15 steps that they have, or maybe more, probably a lot more. And if you don't know, wasabi actually grows best in running water. It kind of has to be moving. It's spectacularly beautiful, and we were invited to go there. One of our goals was actually to visit that farm, and I've kind of half pursued that. But the idea was to visit the farm and make a tour, a Spoony food tour, Spoony Radio food tour. We would spend 10 days in Japan touring around. We'd visit the wasabi farm. We'd go to a few restaurants. We'd see some famous places, eat some famous food. The last day of that that part of the tour, all right, the first 10 days, we'd go to a farmer's home in Niigata, which is west of Tokyo, Niigata Prefecture in the city of Niigata. Go to not a farmer's, but a fisherman's home, and dine with them and allow their family to cook for us the fish fresh off the boat. And then the next day, travel to Tokyo at the opening of the Olympics, the 2020 Olympics, which will be held next summer in Tokyo. Well, I didn't quite get the plan together. We're not quite there. But there may still be an opportunity for a select few to travel to Japan for that event. I'm putting together a package. If you didn't know, watashi wa nihongo o hanashimasu yo. I do speak Japanese fairly fluently, so I'm trying to arrange that. I'll put out a link to the opportunity here in the next probably 10 days, since I'm going to be gone from Thursday morning till next, I think, Tuesday night. I won't have time. I'll be honest. I'd say I'd do it, but I won't do it before then. Right. When I get back at the end of next week, I'll put something out, and we'll see if there's any interest. And if there is, I will pursue it, and we'll put this together. It's going to be a lot of fun. As a matter of fact, Flo Dyson, if you're listening, a great friend of mine from high school, from Chandler, Arizona, actually end of grade school, junior high, and high school. If you're listening, Flo, I know that you do tours to Japan, and give me a call. Or Chuck Rogers, you still live in Kobe. You could give me a call too, buddy. I think I've reached out to you a couple times. How are you and Kai doing? Chuck Rogers' son is this, I don't know, 6'5", 6'4", really tall, lean, but powerful young man who plays professional volleyball in Japan. I'd like to catch up, buddy. If you're there, give us a call. Let me know what's going on. Anyway, I digress. Back to the food show. I can't tell you everything we saw there, but some of the more unique products. There's a company that had this press. It looks like almost like a giant stapler, right? So the handle lifts up, and it had two circular halves attached to the bottom jaw, I guess you'd say, and then the top jaw. And basically you put this giant square ice cube in there, and you dropped, or you lowered the top half of that, the top of the top jaw, onto the lower jaw. And these two half circles basically grasped this cube, and it melted that cube into a perfectly round sphere that you could use as an amazing, and it was like a minute and a half or 2 minutes. It was very cool. But the cooler thing was the bottom half, I believe, could be fitted with a logo of your company, so that when this ice cube was finished, the shaping of this ice cube was done, this ice sphere, it would have your company's logo embedded in it, so that when you looked through a glass into, or through the top of the glass or across the glass, maybe you had an old fashioned, or a bourbon, as I like. I had bourbon neat. You could see the name of the company embedded in it. It's an amazing marketing tool that may not be the most effective, but it sure is. It may not be the most broad reaching, but it's effective because of the memorability factor, right? So not today, but we're going to talk about effective marketing, the most efficient and effective tools of today, and how you can, I don't care if you're just trying to get yourself out there and get more attention on social media, or if you're working on a brand or a larger corporate project, without effectively fine-tuning, right, your social media efforts and having a social media or a marketing strategy in general, you're wasting your time. And you know who I can tell you has firsthand knowledge of that? Okay, if you're watching, you see I have my hand raised. That would be Chef Patrick Mosher, here, better known as the Food Biz Pro, right here on Spoony Radio. But yes, I've done some experimenting about what is my reach on social media if I do this or don't do that, or I add this or don't do that. The thing is, how you effectively target the listener, the viewer, the consumer regarding what you're trying to sell or highlight, express, exploit, share, then there's really no point, right? There isn't. So I'll have later this week, which will be tomorrow, because Thursday and Friday will be off the air. Tomorrow we're going to talk about that a little bit. We have our typical Wind Down Wednesday at the end with Laura Geen will be calling in from Ramo de Olivo. But prior to that, in either the first or second segment, I will talk about effective digital marketing efforts. Social media is really a powerful tool nowadays. And as I go through the NRA show this week, I'm going to take notes on who's done the best and who's done the worst. I don't want to, this is not a grading scale, but I want to take notes because I am now going to become a student of social media marketing. I mean, I don't know if any of you really know me out there, listeners, friends, family, whomever. If you know me and I'm interested in a particular subject, I become a voracious consumer of everything related to that particular subject. All right? So I moved to Japan, liked the food, basically quit my job, started cooking, and voraciously devoured everything related to Japanese food and cooking. Whether that was an experience, or whether that was reading a book, or whether that was getting my hands dirty and cooking and learning. And when I was I came back to culinary school here, I still worked a full-time job plus, because I just wanted to keep learning while I was trying to gain experience in other areas that I didn't really understand, which was Western cooking, the classics, so on and so, standard American cuisine. But at the same time, I still worked on opening 2 restaurants while I was still in culinary school. They were all Japanese based. I'm a voracious consumer of information that I have an interest in. And so you'll see that over the next couple of weeks, I'm going to start giving tidbits out to everyone if you want them. And I'll put them on Spoony as well, and also on the Food Biz Pro page. Give out tidbits on how you can grow your reach and make a greater impact through social media marketing. I think that's going to be really, really beneficial to our current show hosts. Mark Conway, by the way, you do a great job of promoting your show and promoting the other show hosts and Spoony in general through your posting on Facebook and other social media. Again, Mark is the host of Family Meal, which is it plays just prior to my show every day. He does a show 5 days a week. But I'm going to work with him. We're going to walk the show. We're going to look at some marketing strategies. We're going to talk to a couple of specialists as well. I've gotten some, I don't know if you call it secret, black ops type contacts, but I have some great contacts that no one knows about unless you know the people who can introduce you, because they don't market themselves. It's all organic growth, word of mouth. A few of these people who specialize again in social media marketing, specifically one that I'm thinking of with Instagram, and that's really the biggest one. But They have a record of gaining approximately 100 followers per day for their clients on average for the first year. Think about that. You could go from basically 100 to 200 followers if done right, correctly, and with a little bit of financial output. I mean, we're talking $50 a week or less. You could potentially have 300 plus followers, 300,000 plus followers, 300,000 plus followers, say 200,000 plus followers, because you're going to probably take the weekends off and not necessarily pay for social media posting on the weekends. But for, say, that's, we'll say for $200 a month, so $2,400 a year, you could potentially have 300 or 250,000 plus followers doing very little work except explaining to someone what you need and whom you want to follow you. It's amazing. I wish I understood better, which I actually, you know what? I don't wish. I'm vowing to make a more considered effort to understanding how to maximize our reach here at Spoony Radio. We spent a year doing this, almost. We started about a year ago, and it was a fantastic, fun launch at the food show. It took us a couple of months to get up and running on Spoony Radio, but we've learned a lot. But there's a little more that I need to refine. And as the curator and programming director, I vow to do that. Matter of fact, we have our first programming meeting this afternoon, which should be very good. I'm looking forward to the input of not just our partners at Mojo 50, Beth Knott and her input there, but also we have a third channel, which is called Odyssey. And if you haven't checked out Odyssey, Odyssey One, it's a paranormal / sci-fi channel. It's also under the CMB, better known as Cuddle Me Buff umbrella, broadcasting umbrella. That is us here. That is we. And if you don't know what Cuddle Me Buff means, no, it does not mean hold me naked. It could, but look it up. Cuddle Me Buff. It's an old word. It has to do with a beverage. I'll give you a hint. Look it up. It's kind of funny. And I don't know who the hell thought that up, but it's really funny. All right. So, again, I vow to do a little better in growing our reach. And look, if any of the listeners out there have some proven methods for increasing our reach, feel free to reach me at chefpatrick@spoony.com. You can go to the Spoony Radio, the spoony.com website, and you can actually file. You can go to there's a place you can submit a question or submit some input to us. But these would just email me directly, chefpatrick@spoony.com, and look forward to your comments. I think I just bit off more than I can chew, but I'm going to take bigger bites and chew fast. So hopefully within the next couple of weeks, I will have something big to show. And I'm really looking forward to the Spoony tour of Japan. And, this would not be something that would be totally outrageous and necessarily break the bank. If you've been saving for retirement, I don't plan on taking all your money. We just want to cover the cost for us to get there, and then we have a little fun. But I'm telling you, if you don't like Japanese food, I'm heartbroken, and I'd like to say shame on you, but it really just breaks my heart because Japanese food is so simple, yet complex, flavorful, yet subtle, and beautiful, yet minimal, minimalistic. It's a fascinating culture and cuisine to me. I mean, think about living. You take everybody west of the Mississippi and you shove them into California, Oregon, a little bit of Washington State, and that's how you live. Yet they have this bustling, booming, thriving economy, culture, and I don't know. They are an industrious people. That's all I can tell you. They work too much. They sleep too little. And in my opinion, when I was there, they drink way too much. But I'll take a sip of water to that. Yes, this is water in my Yeti. But I do miss it. It's a great, fascinating, fast-paced culture with a lot of amazing personalities and little gems, cultural gems to discover. So if you're interested in the Spoony tour as well, email me at chefpatrick@spoony.com. I'd be glad to answer any questions. Look, this thing isn't set in stone, but if we get we get 10 or more people interested, we will definitely make this thing happen. All right. We got a few seconds left in the segment. Wow, that was a quick run through the first course, which was the appetizer course today? I don't know. I guess soup and salad's coming up next, course 2. I'm going to tell you a little about the history of restaurants and talk a little more about just a little bit about the NRA show coming up. But I want to get into the WFC final table, which is coming up this weekend, the 17th, 18th in New Orleans. If you have a chance to go, definitely don't miss it. We'll be back to give you the details and, ciao for just a second. We'll be right back.
Follow Chef Patrick Mosher on Twitter at Food Biz Pro.
Dr. Ken Brown here, host of Gut Check Project with my co-host Eric Rieger. Eric, we've been seeing Mojo guys over there and over here at Spoony talk about Atrantil for bloating. I've seen in my practice that Atrantil is a whole lot more than just a bloating product.
Yes, it does a whole lot more than just fix bloating because of the polyphenols that you find in Atrantil.
You're exactly right. The polyphenols are those molecules that we find in the Mediterranean diet. It makes vegetables and fruits very colorful. What are some of the things that these polyphenols do, Eric?
These polyphenols can actually stop inflammation. They can help you have more energy. They can help you with anti-aging. And polyphenols are great for athletes.
It sounds like it's going to help a whole lot more people than just bloating. Tell me how everybody should be taking Atrantil.
If you want to dose Atrantil, it's 2 capsules 3 times a day, basically with your meals. But if you aren't bloated and you just want that polyphenol intake every day, 2 to 3 capsules a day will work for you.
Go to lovemytummy.com/Spoony.
Are you tired of high cable TV rates? Sign up for Dish today and get a $500 bonus offer while supplies last. Plus, lock in your price for 2 years guaranteed. Call All American Dish, your Dish authorized retailer now.
800-570-6630. 800-570-6630. That's 800-570-6630. Offers require credit qualification, 24-month commitment, early termination fee, and e-auto pay. Restrictions apply. Call for details.
It looks like you're losing.
I am.
Are you losing weight?
I am losing. I've lost about 10 pounds.
How are you doing it?
Funny name, but I've done it with Riduzone. RADUzone.com, and the stuff works. It's, you get into all that, the molecule this and the found in that. All I can tell you is it makes you feel full, and it keeps your mind off of wanting to overeat.
And also boosts your metabolism,
Yes,
so you're
it does.
burning more.
Yeah, it
Try it today. It's going to work for you like it's worked for Brad and countless other people. Riduzone.com. RIDUzone.com.
Well, as Randy White would say, welcome back, Spoonies. 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 That kind of works. Spoonies. Randy White, hashtag Spoony approved. Spoonies wins. All right, so listeners are now called Spoonies. I don't have Facebook open yet. I should probably open up Facebook and say hi to everyone, see who's listening, see if anyone is listening or watching. Oh, we got one. That would be me. Oh, Sean Schuler. Oh, Sean Sheeler. What's up, Whiskey 6? Damon. Hey, that's my son, Damon. Thanks for watching, buddy. Yeah. Spoonies. I like that. Spoonies. All right. So here's something really funny. I'm going to give you a 15-second marketing rundown, and I'm going to pick on one of our advertisers and sponsors. Okay. I love Dr. Kenneth Brown. I love Eric Rieger, his partner on the Gut Check Project. They're here on Thursday mornings. They are on from 9 to 11 every Thursday. If you haven't listened to the show, it is my favorite show on Spoony Radio. It is one of the most fascinating shows. They talk about cutting-edge technology, CBDs. They've had the doctor that did the original research on stem cells and stem cell injections, and amazing show with deep insights and geeky tech that's understandable and simplified, not dumbed down, but simple enough for the average person to digest. Pun intended. But they have this wonderful product called Atrantil. Atrantil, it has a number of functions. First and foremost, to help you to have a healthy gut. I'm not a doctor. I can't make any medical claims. I can tell you it has helped me tremendously in feeling better. I change my diet often, and depending on how stressed out I am or where I am or what time of year it is, it changes quite frequently, or what new fad diet I decide to try. But Dr. Brown, I'm not calling you out. I love you and Eric, great co-host. As a matter of fact, you kind of drive the show. It's amazing. They came to us and said, we were doing some promos, and Brad and some of the others on the other platform specifically mentioned bloating. Okay, so if you look at the box, it says relief from occasional bloating, abdominal discomfort, change in bowel habits. 90 capsules, dietary supplement, blah, blah. I mean, some people take this for anti-aging properties. It's full of the amazing phytonutrients. And but one of the things they said is that they would like us to stop highlighting the fact that it's anti-bloating and highlight the other, bullet points, the other talking points, which is great. However, if you've listened to the commercial, right, and this is just a lesson, this is not, I'm saying this in the loving way. If you listen to the new recording, what's the one thing they talk about most? And what's the word that comes up more frequently than any other word in the commercial, in the ad? Bloating. If you're trying to counteract the potential misdirected expression of a product, right, then you don't start your new description of your product and what it should be used for by highlighting the thing that you were trying to kind of get rid of from the previous production. I'm just saying. We're going to do another recording when they come in on Thursday. I won't be here, but I would recommend, I'm going to talk to them, send me an email, say, let's do another production that doesn't mention that at all, maybe except at the very end. And yes, it may also be used and help with bloating. So I'm just saying, if you're trying not to highlight something, but then you continuously mention that during the ad, it may not be doing what you want it to do because you're saying that word over and over. So just a lesson in marketing. And no, I did not produce that, nor am I. Look, I didn't even ask if I could say that on the air. This product, phenomenal. So Matt Locke, doing a show right across there. Well, I'm waving to Matt right now. Hey, Matt, how you doing, buddy? He's probably not listening because he's doing his own show through the glass over there on Mojo 50. Matt, he stopped taking Riduzone, 2 weeks ago. He's been taking just Atrantil. Riduzone kind of cleans out the bad gut bacteria. Atrantil creates the great biome that allows the positive the bacterial growth that you need for a healthy gut. Right? It's not just a prebiotic or probiotic. It's kind of that whole thing all in one. Amazing stuff. But Matt has lost like 7 pounds in the last 8 or 9 days. So pretty impressive. Not that is that's an endorsement and that is a third-party statement. So again, Atrantil, go to lovemytummy.com/Spoony to get your discount. I believe it's 10%. It's an amazing product. And yeah, if you don't think it worked, because I don't drink caffeine, look at this level of energy. Can you hear me talking? Do you hear me now? All from my experience due to this stuff right here. All right, so back to what we were talking about before. The NRA show. So the NRA show has been around 100 years. And I'm trying to think about, what did restaurants look like 100 years ago? It's 2019. 1919. Oh, by the way, this is the second course of the Food Biz Pro Show right here on Spoony Radio. I'm Chef Patrick Mosher. We are now into the soup or salad. I'm going to say today is kind of soupy. A little soupy. A little mixed up. A lot of stuff out there. 100 years ago, 1919. What did restaurants look like then? Restaurants, as you think of them, haven't been around for a long time. I mean, I believe the first restaurant, what we consider today to be a restaurant, probably came about in the 1700s. And that's really, when you think about that, that's 300 years ago. Probably less than that, because it was more than likely mid-century 1700s. And when you think about 300 years, what's changed in 300 years? Well, a lot. We've gone from horse or oxen to train to truck to spaceship. I mean, really think about that. What's changed in 300 years? What changed in the last 100 years? The last 60 years technologically? A lot. But the evolution of restaurants, it was kind of slow. There were no real restaurants to start out. There were no public restaurants. What there were taverns and inns, but really they were for in-house dining for their guests, right? So if you stayed there, you got one meal a day. It was included, kind of like a B&B, but really not that fancy. And that was it. That was included. But as far as a public restaurant is concerned, it really didn't come up until, like, I believe it's the I want to say the 1700s. As a matter of fact, I'm going to look it up here. So, 400 BC. Some of these it's interesting. I'm going to look at that again. So, some of these charts and stories go back, several thousand years. But really, that's not true. It really didn't go back that far. The original restaurant. There are a couple of stories, right? But the original restaurant, as far as culinary school considers, anyway, was in France, and it was so there was a boulanger in 1765. There was 1782. No. The first restaurant was where is it? It's in like the 1600s, not in the Americas. It was not. It was in Prayer. Anyway, the first one was like the real first Parisian restaurant was in like the 1790s. I want to say it was Beauvilliers. Yes. So it's Beauvilliers. Beauvilliers. It was established in 1782, and it was really the first Parisian restaurant. It was founded by Beauvilliers in 1782 in the Rue de Richelieu. It was called the Grand Tavern de Londres. Londres. Yes, that is actually how you say it. It's the only French word besides concombre, which means cucumber, that I can say. He introduced the novelty of listing the dishes available on a menu and serving them at small individual tables during fixed hours. That was the first, as we know it today, restaurant that we're aware of, and that's pretty much the one that if you study French cuisine, and this is listed in La Russe Gastronomique, that is the ultimate in classic French cookbooks. And yes, it's a pain in the rear to use, because if you look up one recipe and it has sub-recipes, it will say, oh, do this, 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 and this, and then see sub-recipe 1497, blah, 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 blah. Okay, so now you got to look up that recipe to get that one, and that may have sub-recipes. You got to look up that one to get. It's ridiculously difficult, but it is the go-to manual for the classic chef, right? The classically trained chef uses that, or did use that as their guideline, our baseline for all recipes that we developed over the years. Now, I'm a little younger than that, but it's still handy. I still have the book. I still look it up. As a matter of fact. Oh, I'll have to put it out here because I have it. I'll bring it out during the break. It's actually in the storage closet back there. But I'll take you through what is it? Coquille Saint-Jacques, right? So basically oysters, but I'll do an oysters version that has a sauce on it that's baked, not Rockefeller, but something else. I'll look that up for you, and we'll walk through the process of how tedious this thing is to find one recipe and get it made. But I digress. There are two other theories that two restaurants prior to that one in Paris, Beauvilliers, in 1782, there are two restaurants which may have preceded that. Number one was Boulanger, all right, in about 1765. Boulanger, which is actually a seller of bouillon, as in broth. They named Boulanger. He wrote on his sign, Boulanger sells restoratives fit for the gods. This was the first restaurant in the modern sense of the term because they actually had a sign that said they sell food, right? Then in 1766, about a year later, this is a long one, Matrin Rosé du Chantoisseau. So I should have studied French, Japanese, German. What the hell was I thinking? Spanish, French, Chinese even? What was I thinking? Spanish would have been really handy in the kitchen, French in cooking, right? And learning these. But no, I just read German and Japanese. And no, not handy in the kitchen. Not very, unless you're in Japan or Germany. But again, I digress. Matrin Rosé de Chantoisseau in Paris, 1760. Oh, that was pretty good. 1766. According to Spang, I don't know what Spang is. It must be some sort of Spang must be a lexicon of sorts. The forgotten inventor was Mathurin Rosé de Chantoisseau, a figure so perfectly emblematic of his time that he almost seems like an invention himself. He was the son of a landowner and merchant He moved to Paris in the early 1760s and began floating a variety of schemes he believed would enrich him and his country at the same time. What's interesting is that there is no mention of what the actual salon or restaurant was. Nothing. Why is that? Maybe because he was an invention and because his inventions were just inventions and not real creations. So that is the birth of the restaurants. Again, there were taverns in the past that were not open to the public. They were for guests only. These were guest house or, places you could stay for a night or a week or, however long as a weary traveler. If you ever, what is it? Ellen Enchanted? Something like that. Look, that's kind of what I'm talking about. You walk into a tavern, but that was not a public place. So the restaurant revolution, there are like three reasons that they believe restaurants emerged in France with the French Revolution. One, it was the rage for English fashion. Why? I don't know. But English fashion, in English fashion, they fancied taking meals in taverns, right? In England, they had taverns. And again, this was the very end of the 18th century, late 1700s. Number two, the influx of large numbers of revolutionary deputies from the provinces, which brought in all sorts of food, and they needed places to feed those hungry souls. And number three, cooks seeking reemployment after the breakup of the aristocratic households. That was a big word. Wish I'd gone to Harvard. Aristocratic households. So up until, 1825 or so, meals were served pretty much universally the same. You had a big pot that was put at the table, and everybody shared it. That was it. Then the grander meals, you had some more decadent meals. In fancy dining, the aristocrats, they would have, and occasionally hotels, but mostly in their homes, they would have courses. But the average Joe, you, me, or at least my family, you never experienced that. Only the wealthy. Until, right? They didn't, until the late 1800s, when in France during the French Revolution, they started to develop this type of dining for the general consumer, right? Or this type of, feeding, which became dining, right? So again, until basically 1825, 1830, you got a big pot of grill at the table and you ate that. Think about it. If you watch all the old Westerns, what do they have? They have a one-pot meal, right? Maybe some cornbread on the side. Not a lot. If you can go way, way back in Swiss dining, there's one of my favorite meals is called raclette. It's a type of cheese. It's R-A-C-L-E-T-T-E, raclette. Amazing. What they would do, though, these Swiss, dairy herders, whether they would not sheep, but they would herd their cattle along these steep hillsides. But when they were moving them from pasture to pasture and then finally to slaughter or wherever they were going, they would have this cart. Of course, the cart was towed by one of them, and that kept all their supplies. And one of the supplies they kept was a giant wheel of cheese. I mean, a big one. Like if you've seen a big wheel of Parmesan, like that big. And it was called raclette. And that raclette cheese was set close to the fire. One of the foods that they could carry with them on these journeys was potatoes. And they would boil the potatoes because they had fire and they had a pot, and they would put water in the pot and they would boil the potatoes. Nice, hearty, very full of calorie meal, potatoes. But they made it better. They took the raclette cheese. They would roll that cart a little bit closer to the fire and then hang the cheese right off the side of the edge of the fire. And as the cheese began to melt, they would take a knife and they'd take the potato and cut them up on a plate. And they would scrape that cheese, and it would melt all over the potatoes. And if they happen to lose a head of cattle, they would butcher the cattle, they would cook the beef, and they would do the same thing, and they would put on there with the potatoes, and they would basically scrape the cheese over that. So basically, it didn't matter what you did or where you lived. You had a very simple means of dining. There was no classic French cuisine, and that actually happened a little bit later. The reason that occurred, the invention of haute cuisine, right? The high cuisine of France, the fancy food, so we say, right? And you think about even up until like the 1970s, the only fine dining establishments in the United States, for the most part, were French. Almost all of them. Why was that? Well, although Italian is what we call the first complete cuisine, which incorporated the butters from the north, olive oils from the Mediterranean, pastas from the east, and these different cooking techniques, France was really the birthplace of this hot cuisine. And how that started initially was a lady from Italy was married into the French royal family, and she brought along her chef. And what happened is this chef learned the French cooking techniques, the French ingredients, and then brought these cooking techniques from Italy and the southern regions of Europe and started incorporating all of this into one big, really tasty cuisine that we now call hot cuisine. Now, later that was changed by an amazing chef we lost last year, Paul Bocuse, and he created what was called modern French cuisine. But really, that was really the inception of hot cuisine as we know it. And another chef came along post that era. Basically, I want to say Auguste Escoffier. I don't know the exact dates that he was. I want to say the 1800s. Auguste Escoffier, he basically created what we call the brigade system. The brigade system meant that you had 11 stations in a kitchen, and you had one person that ran each station. So you had, there were 11 positions, right? Top to bottom, I don't know how they go, but you had a commis. A commis was the underling, the whipping boy. The commis was someone who worked pretty much for free in a kitchen for food, and that would slowly work their way up in ranks. The commis was the grunt, the dishwasher, the picker up of slop, swept the floors, mopped the floors, brought you product when needed. That was the commis. Basically, you were the whipping post. You're low guy on the totem pole. You get all the stuff nobody else wants to do. Then you had all these stations. For instance, there was poissonnier. The poissonnier was the fish person. They were responsible for butchering the fish and cooking the fish. On occasion, they were also responsible for making the sauce for their fish. Right? Then you had the boulanger, like the butcher. You had the baker, the candlestick maker. No, not in the kitchen, but yes, you had those. So the butcher butchered everything except the fish, and then you had the saucier. So this was probably in my opinion, the saucier changed cuisine forever. And what happened? What happened was the saucier was the guy that made the sauces. So you might have had, you've been eating mutton, this like 17-year-old sheep that had been running around, finally got all knotted horns and, that big tumor on you. You finally butchered him up and you ate him. Mutton is mutton. Mutton is gamey. Mutton tastes like mutton. But you know what? The saucier made it taste good. Really, really good. I don't mean just good. I mean, saucier. If you ever had food and it's like, it's okay. And then you have a sauce and it's like, holy moly, it's like a rodeo in my mouth. Thanks for that phrase, by the way, Trey Chapman. It's like a rodeo in my mouth. Saucier is a gift from the heavens to all that eat. I'm just saying. Think about everything you eat. If you didn't have sauces, no ketchup, no mustard, no red wine demi-glace, no white wine beurre blanc sauce, no caper butter white wine sauce on your scallopini, nothing, no chimichurri on your flank steak. Ooh, no A1 on your steak. Holy crap! Who could live without sauce? So, Auguste Escoffier developed this system, these positions, which had very defined roles in a kitchen, which allowed service to become faster and very dedicated to the guest. Because before you just served whatever you had. Even in those taverns where you may have been a guest and you dined in, you got whatever they served. They didn't ask you what you wanted. They said, okay, it's mutton stew. Here you go. And you said, okay, thank you. I'll eat that. You didn't say no because you didn't get to eat. And there was nowhere else to go out and eat. You ate there. You didn't have a choice. No kid said, I want a plate of spaghetti or I want pizza. No, you eat mutton stew. Okay, we'll pick the carrots out, just eat the mutton stew. But yeah, it was a very limited dining experience, so to speak. There are some more very interesting, and I kind of think Brillat Savarin, right, who you may or may not know, he was a kind of a I don't want to say food historian, but he basically chronicled the history of food. It's BRILAT hyphen SAVARN, Brillat Savarin. He's the one that said that, Le Grand Tavern de Londres in 1782, he says that was really the time when French cuisine started to mimic British cuisine, which was that you had menus, you had meals, you had choices. And it's amazing how far we've come since then. So then what happened? We started so these choices were still limited for a long time. We had what called prefix menu, right? Now, this is development, probably I'm going to say the early 1900s. We had a prefix, Prixfix, prefix menu. So prefix menu would be, you had 3 courses. You had appetizer course, the main course, and then you had dessert. And you had 3 choices in each course. That was it. That was your choice. It was a set menu, prefix, fixed price. So we had these fixed price menus. And this came about before that, but really, it was really noticeable. Late 1800s, early 1900s, especially in Paris, they would have these prefix menus. And no, I'm not going exactly, and no, I'm not a food historian. I'm just telling you what I remember. And a lot of this is educated guesswork because I've been doing food for, my whole life, basically. And at 51, that's long enough to know better, probably, than to speak without writing down notes, but I'm going to. These prefix menus were brilliant because it allowed the chef to perfect a few dishes in each category, each course. They would typically offer a seafood, like in the appetizer, or the first course, basically. You would have a choice of a salad, soup, or some sort of hors d'oeuvre appetizer. Sky's the limit right there. Soup, great way to repurpose the leftovers from the day before, especially if you had any kind of real good protein. Turn it into a soup. Potatoes, turn them into a soup. Salad, well, they didn't really have a lot of... so fresh salads are a fairly recent invention, but they would have something, possibly a grain dish. The first course probably had choice of 2s, like a salad or an appetizer. I mean, a soup or an appetizer. Very few salads. Again, fresh salads are an invention of, kind of the post-World War II, post-World War I era. But course 2, you would have typically 3 choices. You'd have fish, fowl, or meat. That was it. So you'd have some sort of seafood dish. And that also was a fairly recent development because a lot of times you did not have the choice of having seafood inland if you did not live next to the sea. It was not an option. Why? Because we didn't have refrigeration and we didn't always have ice available to transport food. So unlikely that if you lived inland, you had a choice of those 3. You might have 2. So beef or pork, and then some sort of fowl. And the fowl could be anything from guinea hen to, domesticated poultry, meaning chicken, and or chicken. And if you're a fan of a very famous comedian who died a few years back, it's chicken or chicken. Get out of line. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, just put in comedian, plug it in, comedian, get out of line. You'll find it. Big heavyset guy. Died after a gastric bypass. Very tragic. Funny guy. Anyway, I digress. You had this choice. 2 to 3 items per course. Third being dessert. You would have typically something frozen or a mousse or something, actually, you wouldn't have frozen, but you probably have something that could be utilize the fresh berries, the fresh harvest of that season, right? And you probably didn't always have a choice in the dessert category, but that was pretty much it. Maybe a pudding, because puddings could be held at room temperature for a few days at that point, especially in the cooler months. And you have to think cellar temperature was in the 40s or 50s back then, so it was much easier to keep food that was on the margin, so to speak, on the cusp of being a potentially dangerous food source. So anyway, that's what we had. until, a few decades later, really the modern menu came out. The modern menu being, no, not 400 items to choose from, but you had limited one-page menus that were seasonal because that's all you had. You couldn't transport food around the world at that time, not very effectively and efficiently, not without a huge amount of loss. So as that developed, then we had delicatessens, the automat. Oh my gosh, if you don't know what automats are, go back and look at history. There's a great book called Restaurants That Work. Yes, I'm excited. Chef Patrick is awake and alert. Restaurants That Work, one of my favorite books ever. It goes through a little bit of the history of restaurants, but really it talks about, I think there are 11, 12 restaurant concepts that really worked. And in the description of the development of restaurants and how they progressed and how they evolved, they had these things called automats. And they're kind of coming back. But in New York City, they had these huge ones. And this predates me, unfortunately, because I would have loved to experience this. It was basically a cafeteria where behind these two walls of the cafeteria, they had this big, kitchen area that's kind of walled up, but these two walls had these boxes, like postal boxes. Like, go to the post office, you open a little window, you pick your food out, or you pick your mail out. It was the same thing, but it was, 8 or 10 inches wide. Oh, no, man, we're almost out. I got to talk about automats to start the next segment, and then we're going to talk a little more about the WFC. I'm going to talk about the competitors going into this, how food sports started, and then hang on for the fourth course, the dessert, the best meal of the day. It's Taco Tuesday, so hang in there. Bide your time, grab a cup of coffee, come on back. We'll be back in 4 minutes.
This is the only 24-hour take-anywhere platform dedicated to food and fun. We're Spoony.
News this hour from townhall.com. I'm John Scott. President Trump is talking tough toward Iran.
The president is warning the Iranian regime not to take any action against the U.S. or its allies.
If they do anything, they will suffer greatly. We'll see what happens with Iran.
Reporters asked Mr. Trump about 2 Saudi oil tankers and a Norwegian-flagged vessel being damaged in a sabotage attack.
It's going to be a bad problem for Iran if something happens, I can tell you that.
Last week, the president dispatched a U.S. aircraft carrier group to the Persian Gulf because Iran was threatening. Greg Clugston, the White House.
Earlier today, the president dismissed a report that the U.S. is planning for a military conflict with Iran. Also, President Trump says the U.S. is in good shape in a trade war.
I think we're winning it. We're going to be collecting over $100 billion in tariffs.
Mr. Trump says that the two countries were close to a deal, but says China broke it. Senator Marco Rubio is calling for an investigation of alleged illegal activity by former Secretary of State John Kerry.
Kerry engaged in well-publicized shadow diplomacy last year as he opposed President Trump's plan to pull out of the Iran nuclear deal. Now Senator Rubio is calling on the Attorney General to find out whether Kerry stepped outside the law in the process. Rubio asking AG William Barr to determine whether Kerry violated the Logan Act or FORA, the Foreign Agents Registration Act. Bob Agnew, Capitol Hill.
Also at townhall.com, the House Judiciary Committee has formally scheduled a hearing for former White House counsel Don McGahn. The committee given official notice. The hearing is for next Tuesday. However, sources say that McGahn has not confirmed that he will appear. The decision to schedule the hearing comes just days after published reports that the White House had asked McGahn to say publicly that he never believed the president obstructed justice. McGahn reportedly declined. Wall Street rebounding nicely. The Dow is ahead 338 points. More on these stories at townhall.com.
Fast Track Student Loans can get your student loans out of default, stop any wage garnishments, stop collection calls, and stop seizure of your tax refund. Give yourself a break. Stop the stress and get your student loan payments down to as little as $25 a month based on what you can afford to pay. 800-709-4395. 800-709-4395. 800-709-4395. 800-709-4395.
Do you use the expensive blue or yellow pills to charge your sex life? Are you thinking about it? What if we can promise you the same results for less than $3 a pill? If you're paying $20 a pill for the other pills, you're getting taken to the cleaners. Our pills deliver the exact same results for less than $3. You'll save more than $16 a pill for the same results. And right now, radio callers will get 44 blue or yellow pills for $120 with free discreet shipping. You can save more than $700 off pharmacy prices. Charge your sex life now and save a ton of money. Call now and get your 44 pills and save over $700 and qualify for free shipping. Stop overpaying and call right now.
800-218-6473. 800-218-6473. 800-218-6473. That's 800-218-6473.
Now you can fly anywhere in the world and pay discount prices on your airline tickets. Book a flight today to London, Paris, Madrid, or anywhere else you want to go and pay a lot less guaranteed. Call the International Travel Department right now at Low Cost Airlines.
800-452-1075. 800-452-1075. That's 800-452-1075.
And we're back for the third course. It is third course, right? It's only 2 o'clock. Yes, third course right here on Spoony Radio. Chef Patrick Mosher, the Food Biz Pro. We are talking a little history of restaurants, menu development, and so on and so forth. When I left you last, we were talking about automats. Yes, automats. There were these cool spaces in New York City and other large cities around the world where during the 20s, 30s, and 40s, when they kind of started out, they would have these giant cafeterias. But the cafeterias didn't serve food from a counter, right? They actually served food from these windows. And these windows were basically like going to the post office again. There's like a 10 by 10 opening. And each of those, they would have a plate of food. It had a window you could see. You would open the window, open that door, grab a plate of food, and you would basically pay for it. You had whatever the colored plate was or whatever ticket they had in there. That's what you paid when you left. You know, it's a brilliant concept, actually. And they kind of faded by the wayside, I want to say in the 50s. And maybe early 60s, but they're making a comeback now. Now, what does that mean they're making a comeback? I don't know. I haven't seen one yet, but I read a couple of years ago that they're making a comeback and people are trying out this concept again. If you know, I need to look up, actually. I need to find where there's an automat, and I will let you know. If there's one in Chicago this week, I need to actually dine there. And let's see. Automat restaurants. There we go. Woohoo! Automat restaurants, and there are 30s, 40s, and 50s. Are there still any automats in New York City? Oh, see, there was one. So there's one called BAMN, B-A-M-N, apostrophe. Opened in New East in the East Village, Dutch style. There's a Dutch style automat in 2006 in New York, but it sadly closed in 2009. And the last true automat closed its doors in 1991. Now, Itza, they say Itza is still around, but Itza I don't think is there. I don't think so. I don't think there are any. I wonder if there are any in Chicago. I need to find that out. If you know if there is an automat anywhere in existence in Chicago or any other major city, let me know. Again, that's Chef Patrick at Spoony.com. Email me. You can actually do a little. You can fill out the form, the contact form on Spoony.com. Send it to us. I will respond. As a matter of fact, it comes up right here in my hot little hand on my phone, and I'll respond right away. Probably tomorrow. Just saying. Got a lot of meetings today after this show. So, automats. What a cool. I wish I'd been around to experience that. I've never eaten in one, but. This book, it was called Restaurants That Work. It had restaurants by Wolfgang Puck. It had this amazing guy, Rich Melman. So let's go one step further. or go back a step rather. We had these automats, these cafeterias. Then we started to have these national chains. McDonald's, right? I talked about them last week, serving 3 billion burgers a year right now, something like that, something ridiculous. Those chains started in the 50s, became really exploded during the 60s. But at that time, in the early 60s and late 50s, a couple of things happened. A, the advent of television. And then the proliferation of television into the majority of homes in America allowed us to see things and experience shows and broadcasting we never thought about before. So a few interesting characters came about from that. One being James Beard, who wrote a great book. He wrote several cookbooks, but he also had one of the very first cooking shows. And then also Julia Childs. And Julia Childs was, it's basically the mother of French cuisine in households here. And again, at that time, the only really refined dining in the United States was French cuisine. So from that came the chef personality. The first big one of which was, of course, Julia Childs. Then you had people came along like Martin Yan, Yan Can Cook, if you remember that from PBS. Yan Can Cook, hilarious man who has had a very storied career. Then you had people like Jacques Pepin, right? You had In the Kitchen with Julie and Jacques. And then you had, probably the biggest star to hit, and this is really about the time, it actually was exactly the time that Food TV, which is now Food Network, was born, was Emeril. I mean, Emeril's still one of the most recognized chefs from television, but Emeril's personality, which was developed over a couple of decades, because this was a man who was a chef. Chefs didn't leave the kitchen. But the Brennan family, the iconic Brennan family of New Orleans, said, I believe he was chef at Commander's Palace, and said, look, you need to go out and greet your guest. Talk to them, socialize, and get comfortable doing that. And that allowed him to develop the personality which became the rock star chef that he is. So you went from no choice in dining, because it was not really a public access establishment, right, to these limited menus or single meal restaurants, they offered one meal per period, basically, to eventually you had a menu in the mid 1760s, in France, in Paris, to the development of more varied menus and a few choices. Then you had the advent of the cafeteria, which gave us a plethora of choices, then the cafeteria, and then you had these chains that exploded. We kind of went all the way from these big chain restaurants, went back to the individual, identifying an individual with a specific style who was a personality, and then we had this new era of the rockstar chef, and that's kind of where we are now. Now, where are things going from here? That's a good question. But one of the reasons I go to the NRA show, not every year, but often, and I really want to be there this year for the 100th anniversary show. It's the 100th anniversary of the National Restaurant Association's Hotel, Motel, and Restaurant Show. I want to see where we're going in the future. Last year, there was this awesome demonstration on technology and food, specifically robotics. There's a company, is it Cali Burger, I think? They have a burger, and they have a robot that flips the burgers for you and puts them on the bun. It may not be the end be all end all, but you have one person basically putting the patties on the griddle, on the flat top. The robot flips them all, perfectly timed, everyone exactly the same. And how does it do it? It has a robotic eye. It has sensors. It senses the temperature on the top of the burger, so it knows when to flip it, so on and so forth. And then it drops that patty on the bun, which gets finished dressing, by the other individual in the kitchen. Is it perfect? No, but it's very interesting. There was another restaurant which delivered. They had a robot that delivered food to the tables. Yep, actually took the food and brought it to your table. That's freaking cool. So basically, this robot was not assigned to any specific server. It was kind of R2D2 sized, little flat head on there. You could rest a tray on there, and it would deliver the food, and it would say, it would say thank you, it would say you're welcome. It's very cool. Above and beyond that, though, now we have these trucks. I think it's Pizza Hut that designed them. These trucks, though, they drive around the city. They have a driver, a human driver. They drive around the city, but when you order your pizza, you have someone that takes the dough out, right? Takes the dough out, puts the toppings on, but then puts it in, and the machine, this automated, it's not really a robot, automated machine, smart machine, bakes the pizza, boxes it, and then holds it till you get to the delivery location. It's brilliant. Now, take it even one step further. In San Francisco, they have these little things that kind of look like looks like the mail delivery machine from the Pentagon when I was there as a kid in the 70s. And if you've ever seen another Star Wars, the original Star Wars movie, there's a little black, I don't know what it is. It's a little black machine that drive. I don't know if they're on the Death Star or what it is, but it runs through the hallways, and basically Chewbacca scares it and it runs the other way. It's a little tiny square box thing. It's but they have a machine like that in San Francisco that delivers food from a restaurant to your home and keeps it warm. It's brilliant. I don't know if it's very efficient, but it's brilliant. So that was last year in the technology as applies to the food industry seminar that I went to. I actually videotaped the whole thing. I probably need to edit that down, grab a couple of clips, and put them up on Spoony. Spoony Radio's Facebook page, because it's very interesting. It was one of the best segments, one of the best parts of the show that I saw. Now, this year, I'm not looking, but I think guest experience, right? Guest experience is probably going to be one of the big things. Guest experience. So how do you there are over 1 million dining establishments in this country. 1 million. We are the largest. The food service industry is the largest employment sector in the country. Really? No, we're not England. In England, the largest employment sector, or the largest employer in any sector is the government. We're not England. This is the United States. It's food service. That said, there's a constant struggle now because the country's inundated with food options, right? Good options, bad options, tasty options, not so tasty options. But we want to try something new on a regular basis. And if we don't, if our competitors, the competition out there, if they don't step up and they don't compete with each other and they don't give you a viable product with exceptional service or even acceptable service, then you don't survive, right? And more important than consistency in the kitchen and quality of food is the face that serves you and how they offer that service. So I think that there are some things coming up that I think that's going to be the big focus this year is not automation and not necessarily technology in food production, but how do we use technology, right? How do we use that to best serve the guest? There are a lot of different ways. There are, I don't even know how this is going to integrate, but I think they're going to start customizing. Oh, you know what? I do know some of this stuff. I do. As a matter of fact, it's not TGI Fridays. There's another chain, though. There's another chain, kind of like TGIF, which is basically defunct now. But they have 3 different markets that they serve. Each restaurant is fairly similar, but they have tier 1, tier 2, and tier 3 markets. Tier 1 would be your average, blue collar Joe Schmo, me. I just go in, I get a mass-produced beer, or maybe a local or regional microbrew, or something, even a national microbrew, or whatever, and some simple food wings, right? So tier 2 is a more white-collar, blue-collar mix. Tier 3 would be somewhere where they're looking more for premium cocktails or regionally produced exclusive drinks. And the menu for each of those regions, each of those tiers of restaurants, although the same chain, same design, virtually, the menus are different. The cocktail menus are different. So they develop each menu specifically to serve that demographic. It's very interesting. That technology is pretty amazing. Even more interesting, they have these digital menus now. And digital menus are pretty cool because they can it's not just a time-saving technology where you don't have to speak to a server. You flip through virtual pages and place your order. But there are digital wine menus now where you can answer like 10 or 11 questions, 8 or 10 questions. Tell that software what you like from a taste perspective, food-wise, and it will select wines that 99 times out of 100 you're going to enjoy. It's fascinating technology. Dr. Brown about a month ago came in and he told us about this website, right? This website basically allows you to choose an ingredient, and then based on the molecular structure of that ingredient, not the smell, not the taste, not anything else, the molecular structure of that ingredient, you can set it will give you a list of ingredients in other categories that you can pair that with, so that chefs and mixologists, bartenders, people that create and design meals for others can find the ideal pairing of flavors, aroma, ingredients to create basically the perfect meal. What complements best the other ingredients. It's fascinating stuff. I love that seminar. It's one of my favorite events of the week, and I'm really looking forward to it. I'd love to do some Facebook Live from that, or at least send some snapshots to Snapchat, or not Snapchat. I don't know how to use that, but to Instagram, and then also to the Spoony Radio's Spoony Radio Facebook page, and see just give everybody a little bit of insight into what's going on this year in technology, the advancements we see coming up, and to look back 100 years. And see what the disparity is from where we were then and what we've progressed to now. It's going to be fascinating. I mean, point of sale systems. Before you had like a little cash register, which wasn't even a cash register. You made change. Then you had a cash register. Ding, 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 ding. Drawer opens. Now you had these digital point of sale systems, what we call POS. Now that single tool, that one tool, that point of sale for virtually any restaurant in the country that sells more than one item on the menu. That is the single most valuable yet underutilized tool in the entire establishment, because it tells you what you sold, how many, when, how, to whom, and then it allows you to determine what selections, what choices you should be pursuing or putting into your menu. It's fascinating stuff. All right, so we have coming up this weekend, besides the National Restaurant Association show, if you've been watching Spoony Radio all the last couple of weeks, Spoony Radio at all the last couple of weeks, then you've noticed that Andy Imhoff from Pardon My Fork, Derry O'Connor with Try This Dish Radio, and myself have been doing a series of interviews with the 10 category winners, the 10 WFC champions, right, that won last November, I believe. They are going to battle it out this coming weekend in a 2-day, 3-event series to decide the one and only world food champion. Now, what is the WFC? WFC is kind of, if you've heard of Food Sport, which maybe you haven't, you think of Iron Chef or some of the other shows. You have a lot of shows. You have Master Chef, Master Chef Junior, Master Chef Italy, Master Chef this, that, the other, Hell's Kitchen. Man, there are a lot of shows, right? A lot of them. This one, though, isn't a show. There will be a television show produced after the event. I believe by, it could be, I think, Dick Clark Productions, which is a very cool, huge production company. But Michael McLean, the founder of the WFC, the World Food Championships, I believe this is year number 8 or 9. So 8 years ago, I had this dream that will allow cooks of any background, any skill level, to compete against each other in an open forum in 10 different categories. And then later, there's a series of events leading up to this big event with, I believe there are almost 1,000 chefs there this last year in Orange Beach, down in Mississippi, or I'm sorry, Alabama, along the Gulf, the coast there. They had almost 1,000 chefs or 1,000 cooks come in and compete to determine 10 champions. And the champions are in 10 different categories. Okay. So I'm going to go through those right now. So you have the bacon world champion right now is Peter Raju from Roanoke, Virginia. Congratulations to you, Peter, because bacon, as we know, is probably pretty much everybody's favorite food. And if it's not, I'm sorry, you should retry bacon again. The world barbecue champion is Oliver Sievers from Bochum. Yes, I know Bochum. North Rhine-Westphalia, Germany. That's not very far from Cologne, where I used to live. Congrats, Oliver. This guy's not just a barbecue man. He knows it all. This guy's a rock star, one to watch. I'm telling you, I don't know if he's definitely a favorite. I'm looking forward to watching what happens this week. I won't be able to see it until afterwards, but we do have an insider at the show, as Derry O'Connor is going to go down and be reporting to Spoony live every day. However, I won't be here. I'll be in Chicago, so we'll have to figure out how we're going to get that broadcast on Friday and Saturday, but we will. We'll do some live stuff on Facebook. So the World Burger Champion, that's Neil Daniel from Atlanta, Georgia. Don't discount burgers. That's a tough category. We have the World Chef Champion, Nick Rickman from Marianna, Florida. He is the owner of the Salt Block. If you missed my show about 2 weeks ago, I think on Tuesday, would have been this day of the week, Tuesday, he was on the air, Tuesday or Wednesday, and he has quite a story. A very, very interesting story. His grandfather had a lot of cooking experience, came from Europe, came over here. Very cool story. Ended up working at the Waldorf Astoria in New York as a dishwasher, worked his way up to cook, eventually moved to the South and opened up what is believed to be the first family steakhouse in southern United States. It's a very cool story. And then they had some other tragedies occur. Their house flooded right before the main event. They had a hurricane. Mike came through last year and was August, early September. It damaged the restaurant had to close. It'd only been open like a month or two, but it really decimated their house. And so he made a choice to go ahead and compete anyway. And the first thing he did upon the flooding was he didn't call for help. He called, Operation Barbecue Relief? He called that team, helped them, and assisted in feeding the others that were homeless and otherwise left shelterless, and foodless. Pretty amazing story. He is definitely one to watch. He won the chef category, which is a very, very, you don't have to be a chef to compete, but you're judged as a chef, not just as a cook. And it's a little bit different judging, but he's definitely one to watch. And he's placed, I think, 4 years in 4 different categories in like the top 3. So definitely a good one. We have Lydia Hadadian, who she's the world chicken champion. She was on the show here with Derry O'Connor and myself. She's from Pasadena, California. A very interesting background. What is it? Romanian, Brazilian, and Caribbean cooking experience. I believe she grew up in Brazil. I could be a little off, but a very fascinating story. Home cook. Stay-at-home mom, just chose to make that her career, but she competes. She's won like 42 competitions, so she is definitely one to watch. We have the World Open Chili Champion, which is Jacqueline Seavey from Long Beach, Mississippi. I want to say she works at a big casino down there, which I know she does. I don't know which one, but I'm not sure if it's in Louisiana or back in Mississippi. But she's a one to watch. Definitely hot to trot. She's done well this year. Looking forward to what she comes up with. We have the World Dessert Champion. That's Greg Berger from Peoria, Arizona. Hey, Arizona, hometown boy. We have the World Sandwich Champion, David Molina from St. Louis. We have the World Seafood Champion, Bo Smith from Lamarck, Texas. That guy, he's one to watch as well, especially since they're competing in New Orleans. And your dishes must be influenced, the first round anyway, which I'll tell you about in a minute, has to have this Creole Cajun regional influence, which he should be right on par for. And then World Steak Champion, I also had the pleasure of interviewing Robert Mansfield from Ringwood, New Jersey. Robert is a very interesting man. He was a barbecue competitor who decided to switch to steak class for one competition before the SCA, the Steak Cook-Off Association, I think, was sanctioned. They had no sanctioned competition at that point, but he was in Atlantic City and he won. He decided to continue competing in both categories. He won that one, and now he's the reigning world steak champion. He's been facing some health issues. If you're a religious person, you pray, please put out some positive prayers, some good mojo for Robert. He's got some back issues, and look, Robert, you better make it, man. I'm pulling for you. Robert he restores pianos. So this guy's attention to detail, the ribeye that he won with, the plating, the detail, the finesse, definitely one to watch. All right, so we'll be back in just a couple of minutes here. We got about a minute left, but that's again, it's a two-day event, three competitions or 3 different challenges. The first one is going to be my favorite breakfast food ever. right? They have to do their spin, a regional spin, on Eggs Benedict. And I've done some really fun stuff with Eggs Benedict, but I'm curious to see what these chefs, cooks, passionate foodies come up with down in New Orleans starting Friday. It's Friday, 17th, Friday. Hard to believe. It's 3 days away. I wish they would televise the event live. I'm telling you. I hope that Derry gets a good seat so she can hold that phone up and do some Facebook Live, some visuals, because I know that there are only 10 competitors, only 5 move through from round 1 to round 2, and we have been asked not to in any way disrupt the judging. So as long as we do a Facebook Live, keep it muted, we don't say anything, she doesn't say anything, I think we'll get a good feed. But I'm looking forward to that. So I'll come back. I'll give my spin on what they could do or couldn't do. There's so many options when it comes to Eggs Benedict. But unfortunately, the third course is now done. The entree, the meat of the matter, we have digested. Well, not digested, but consumed it. We'll continue digesting as we come up with dessert. Next, it's Taco Tuesdays right here on Spoony Radio. So stay tuned. We'll talk a little more WFC, Taco Tuesday, and I don't know, you might have say hi to some more people here on Facebook if I can figure out how to do that on my iPad. Tug up my computer back. Yes, it's done. All right, Chef Patrick Mosher, Food Biz Pro. Hold on tight. Ciao for now. It's a short break. Come right back.
Follow Chef Patrick Mosher on Twitter @FoodBizPro.
Why have thousands of aspiring authors teamed up with Christian Faith Publishing to publish their book? Because Christian Faith Publishing is an author-friendly publisher who understands that your labor is more than just a book. We provide authors freedom and flexibility throughout the publishing process, professional book editing, award-winning design, and some of the highest royalty structures in the publishing industry. And as always, you will retain 100% of the rights to your book.
I was looking to find a company that I could trust, one that assisted in the editing process completely.
The most important qualities that I was looking for was a publisher who was honest and upfront, no hidden costs or fees, and owning the rights to my own work.
Christian Faith Publishing will publish, market, and sell your books in all major bookstores, online booksellers, as well as specialty Christian bookstores. Call for your free author submission kit.
800-978-4812. 800-978-4812. 800-978-4812. That's 800-978-4812.
Never Forgotten Apparel is more than just a premium women's and men's clothing line. It's a movement to remind us to wear American-made and serve those who serve us. Our heroes. Never Forgotten Apparel gives 20% of their total sales to nonprofits that support homeless veterans and off-duty firefighters, and 50% to individual veterans and firefighters in need nationwide. Check out neverforgottenapparel.com. Use promo code MATT, M-A-T-T, and get 15% off your purchase.
Dr. Ken Brown here, host of Gut Check Project with my co-host Eric Rieger. I've seen in my practice that Atrantil is a whole lot more than just a bloating product.
Yes, it does a whole lot more than just fix bloating because of the polyphenols that you find in Atrantil.
What are some of the things that these polyphenols do, Eric?
These polyphenols can help you have more energy, and polyphenols are great for athletes.
It sounds like it's going to help a whole lot more people than just bloating. Go to lovemytummy.com/Spoony.
Yes. If you're watching, I'm sorry. I like the music for the last commercial for Dr. Brown's Gut Check Project. The same music as their intro is used in their ad for Atrantil. But you know what? Maybe you need to get away from gluten. Maybe you just want to try something new, a new, wonderful, just a good product, wholesome. All right. Here, I love white rice, but I'll tell you what, brown rice is just as versatile. I living in Japan for a long, growing up in Japan, I didn't grow up in Japan, but living in Japan, I ate rice for every single meal. My favorite breakfast was grilled fish, rice, and miso soup. Yeah, a little weird, but you can use wild rice for every meal. Nostalgia wild rice, you can get a SpoonyWildRice.com, and they have, I don't know, 50, 60, 70 recipes, ideas on how to use wild rice. Not just wild rice, how you use their side dishes like polenta, how you turn that into a waffle mix, how to make a salad from wild rice instead of using instead of using lettuce, you use, they have all these wonderful ancient grains. Well, this is one too. This is the oldest and the only native grain to North America. It's completely gluten-free. It is almost a complete protein, 13 of the 14 amino acids. It's fairly low in calorie. It's highly dense in nutrition, and it's gluten-free. Yes, I said gluten-free. Anyway, look, they have great products. They have an amazing line of products that are condiments. They have this whipped maple honey right here. I'm so hungry right now. I just really want to open the jar, grab a spoon, and take a bite, but I have nothing to put it on. I'll probably feel sick in like an hour because my blood sugar, well, it won't spike. I'll just, I'll be more hungry and I'll be sweaty and I'll be grumpy. So I'm going to wait till I get off the air, but you can go to Nostalgia Wild Rice. That is Spoony. wildrice.com. There's always a discount, and you know what? Matt isn't over there to get, nobody's giving me these talking points. Tom, y'all are, I need to know what the new discount is because there's a minimum of 10% discount when you order. You know what? Just put in Spoony and see what happens. Use Spoony as discount code, or put in Chef Patrick, or put in I don't know. Send me an email. I'm going to post this on Spoony Facebook page, whatever the discount code is, because I'm frustrated. I'm really tired of not having that info. And this is not Jay or Lori's fault. You wonderful people, the founders of Nostalgia Wild Rice, we love you. But Matt, what's the code? All right. Hopefully Ron heard me. He'll get the code for me. Anyway, back to the story. Again, this is the dessert, course 4 for today's radio show right here on Spoony Radio. Chef Patrick Mosher, the Food Biz Pro. The WFC, the World Food Championship. I just announced the 10 finalists for this year's the final table in New Orleans. And there's a couple of really unique things about this. Again, these are 3 events over 2 days. The field gets narrowed after each event. It starts with 10. Only 5 pass through to the second challenge. The first one is, again, my favorite breakfast food, and a lot of people's favorite breakfast food. It is Eggs Benedict. Now, Eggs Benedict, I've had it many ways. It's typically a very simple dish. It's a grilled English muffin with Canadian bacon, better known as ham in this country, sliced thinly, grilled or griddled, it's topped with a poached egg and hollandaise sauce. If you don't know hollandaise sauce, it's basically clarified butter, where you take butter and you bring it just to you melt it down, bring it just to simmering, very low, just almost not boiling, just to simmering. In a soup pot, a small saucepan, and as the milk solids separate from the actual the oil in the butter, they rise to the top and they get foamy. You scrape those off. It's all the salt. It's the milk solids. All the stuff that makes butter taste like butter, except that rich mouthfeel, that coating, that really yummy. It's the salt and the milk solids, but there's no feeling to that in your mouth. It's just salty, and that's it. So what's left over is clarified butter. That's ghee, in other words. That's one of the terms for it from India, GHEE. But you take that clarified butter and you use it like you would an oil and mayonnaise, except you use it while it's hot. You want to use it warm because it cooks the egg yolk. The way I do this, I take 4, 5, 6 egg yolks, put them in a blender, and then I add some lemon juice, right? Probably, if I'm going to use, we'll say 4 egg yolks, about a tablespoon of lemon juice. I like a lot of lemon in my hollandaise sauce. You can use a teaspoon to start with. And then you turn the blender on, and you drizzle the hot clarified butter into the emulsion. And what it does, it starts to thicken and grow in volume, and it incorporates air. You can do it over a double boiler with a whisk. It's a pain in the butt, and it takes a long time. This way, as long as you have that blender running, it won't cook the egg yolks, not into chunks of yolky, not so delicious, right? You don't want chunks of egg yolk in your hollandaise sauce. So after that's done, you add a little white pepper, some salt, maybe a little Tabasco or some sort of spice, a little cayenne pepper maybe, and that's it, just a touch. Now, so you have that. This is the traditional dish. You have a English muffin, the sliced Canadian bacon, ham, right? Poached egg, and hollandaise sauce. Now, how could you turn that into a Cajun/Creole dish? I mean, I have a million ideas. You could skip the English muffin. You could actually take a type of, there's a lot of rice used in Creole cooking and Cajun cooking. You could take that rice and you could bake a rice fritter out of it, like a rice patty, and fry it. That becomes your base. Now you could maybe do maybe some treated crab, right? Take some crab. You don't want to make a crab cake. I take like jumbo lump crab, put it on there, just warm it just a little to get the chill off there. Maybe season it with a little bit of something, maybe a vinaigrette. Then you put your poached egg, then some hollandaise sauce in there, or maybe the hollandaise becomes seasoned or flavored with the vinaigrette in the hollandaise sauce. Something. I mean, that's just one of the. I have 50 different thoughts right now. I used to do a dish called Eggs Copenhagen, which really doesn't exist. I made it up, but it was eggs. It was Eggs Benedict, but instead of using Canadian bacon, it was the English muffin, some lox, some really, really subtly smoked. Cold smoked salmon, lox, L-O-X or L-A-C-H-S, right? It was not served cold though, because it's hard to cut through. If you ever had a bagel with lox, it's kind of hard to bite through sometimes. So we'd steam it just a little bit, just enough to make it easy to cut through that salmon. It didn't cook it all the way, but that would go on, and then the poached egg, and then the hollandaise sauce. I mean, there's so many ways you can make this dish. Oh, Fred's Hickory Inn in Bentonville. We took, when we first started brunch, which was a nightmare. I talked about that story last week. When you're chasing the almighty dollar and you forget to plan well, one of the best things that came out of that was we had 4 different versions of Eggs Benedict. The best one, however, was we took this smoked sirloin. We had a 15 to like 12 to 17 pounds smoked sirloin, and they would make like beef sandwiches. I mean, you think Arby's, you think sliced beef sandwich? No, we're talking a sliced smoked beef sandwich that is incredible, out of this world. I mean, so tender, you just point the fork at it, it slices itself. It was so awesome, so awesome. And you take that, you put it on the English muffin, top it with a poached egg, with hollandaise sauce. That may not fit into what they're doing. I'm just telling you, there's so many variations you could do. Oh, wait, I got another favorite. That was not my favorite. My favorite of all time was a Texas version of Eggs Benedict. We'd done an Osobuco special the night before. So, and I think I talked about this on the air recently, but take the Osobuco when it's cold the next day. You break all the meat off of that, and you kind of break it up a little bit. You don't chunk it up too. You don't want mush. You just want to break it up so it's smaller than bite-sized pieces, slightly smaller. Like ½ inch by ½ inch. You take those, you take the cooking liquid, which you had turned into a sauce the day before. You'd reduce that to a sauce. Now, you take that and you gently fold that into the Osobuco, right? This veal shank, which is, right? This crosscut of the foreleg, right? Or the leg. Shank, yes, shank of veal. So, you take that, and then you heat that gently. Typically, I put it in a pie tin, put it in the oven, just let it heat through while I cook the... Nope. You don't serve it on an English muffin. You take a piece of Texas toast, butter both sides, griddle that baby up, nice and golden brown, the chef's favorite color. Put it on the plate. You put that Osobuco meat that you've taken off, you put it on there. Top that, and it's got that juice is the cooking liquid that you turn into a sauce. That rich red wine veal demi is now just... It's just on there to keep the to keep the dish moist. Yes, I said moist. Yes, you keep it moist. It's good. It's flavorful that way. It's good. It's not a bad word, guys. Then you put that on the toast. You top that with a poached egg, a little hollandaise sauce on top. It was my favorite rendition of Eggs Benedict I've ever had. There's a great place called Snooze, Snooze, an AM Eater. I think they have them here in Texas now. They're based out of... I don't know where they started. I know they're in Colorado. Actually, I think the original one is actually in Denver region. I know they have them in Arizona, Texas, all over the place now. They do a great one. It's a traditional Eggs Benedict, but then they take over the hollandaise sauce, they take this balsamic. I actually copied the dish once, a balsamic reduction, and they drizzle the plate with it. It's fantastic. So many ways to take this one simple dish and make it so fantastically over the top. I mean, it's on its own, it's a decadent dish. It's amazingly flavorful and one of my all-time favorites. So I am really looking forward to see who is the winner in the round 1 of the World Food Championships final table in New Orleans this 17th and 18th, Friday, Saturday. Stay tuned. We'll get some updates. So going into the second round, they all get to try. Hopefully, they've tried it several times now. They're down there eating right now. Snapper, is it a redfish Bienville, right? So that is from one of the Brennan family restaurants. And the chef of that restaurant is actually going to, one of the Brennan men as well, is going to be one of the judges. Should be very interesting. But this is it's a very rich dish that has this kind of butter crab sauce. Amazing crab butter sauce, I think it was called. Fantastic. This is another one. This is not one where you get to use your own creativity. This is one of the coolest challenges I've heard in a long time. They have to eat the dish and, to the best of their ability, recreate the dish exactly to memory. Fantastic challenge. I think this is really going to tell you not who the best cook is as far as their vast amount of culinary knowledge, who has the best palate, and who has the ability to recreate that by understanding the ingredients. This is going to be fantastic. And then the final round, they have a challenge, but that winning dish on the final round, which there will only be 3 competitors, the top 3 from round 1 and 1-2, they get a couple of prizes. One is $100,000 in their pocket, $100,000, folks. That's some good moolah. Even cooler, though, I think. And I struggle with which I would take if I had to choose. I'm sure I would take the money because, we all need money. But they have a chance to, the winner gets their dish on the menu at Antoine's. And Antoine's is one of the longest running restaurants. I think it's the longest, it's the restaurant the longest family-owned restaurant that's been open continuously. And they opened in 1896. It's still open now. They have not added a menu item in 100 years. Not a new menu item in 100 years. This is the restaurant that's the birthplace of Oysters Rockefeller. They're going to add the winning dish to that menu, giving the winning competitor credit for it. It's going to be fantastic. So again, we'll keep you tuned or stay tuned. We'll keep you posted. But let's move on. It's Taco Tuesday. Who doesn't love tacos? Really, who doesn't like tacos? I mean, it's one of my favorite foods. The great thing about tacos is whether you're a minimalist, a traditionalist, or some off-the-charts experimenter in food, then it doesn't matter. You have a choice. Run the whole gamut. I mean, I've had things, I've had roast duck, it's basically Peking duck as a taco. Oh, really good. As a matter of fact, Trick Dilly, this wonderful food truck that's now a brick and mortar place in Bentonville, Arkansas. Yes, I said Bentonville again. I like that place. I spent some time there, and it's a cool breeding ground for some new concepts. But one of my all-time favorites for them was roast pork shoulder with goat cheese and like julienne green apple. Oh, unbelievable! The tartness from the apple cuts through the fat of the pork shoulder. You had that goat cheese adds a tangy richness to the entire bite. It was unbelievable. And then he did a brisket taco that had a really, I think it was like a 12-hour smoked brisket. Great, just a great tender piece of meat that was trimmed just enough, had just enough fat left in it to be really flavorful, but it didn't overpower that wonderful dense, meat that muscle that is brisket. Then, to that, they added, wait for it, pickled watermelon rind. Amazing contrast. You have this slightly sweet, actually kind of sweet, slightly tart watermelon rind that was pickled red and that cut through the fatty content of this brisket. It was unbelievable. So Troy, good on you. That's a hell of a concept you got going. What's Troy's last name? Troy is Troy Walker of Trick Dilly up in Bentonville. Great place to go. I'm sure they still have the food truck. I'm sure they still do parties. But, I was just reading this article. It was a unique twist for Taco Tuesday. Turn your taco inside out for a nostalgic update on the hard shell classic. So I was like, hard shell tacos? Okay, that's something that I used to eat, hard shell tacos. I'm pretty much all soft-sided tacos now. But I'm curious now. I mean, I kind of remember the old Taco Bell or the, what's the On the Border taco kits that you got. Look, I didn't grow up in a state where tacos were. I grew up in upstate New York and then moved to Arizona later. So I didn't, I had tacos in a kit. That's what it was. You had taco seasoning, you sprinkle on the ground beef, and that became tacos. If you're lucky, you had tomatoes and lettuce to put in there. So not quite as bad as a Wish sandwich, but it was just, tacos and a hard shell. It was what it was. So now, you have fried fish tacos. You have blackened scallop tacos. You have the wonderful tacos, the pulled pork, pulled pork shoulder, the brisket tacos I talked to you about. And there's all sorts of wonderful things you can do. Now, one of the things I like to do is instead of using taco shells at all, I just use, I make a lettuce wrap. Just use the outer leaves of a head of lettuce. You're trying to lighten up the load, get away from gluten, have a healthier diet. There you go. Now you have a gluten-free, bread-free, crunch-free, because I'll tell you, I like crunchy taco shells. I don't like what they do to the inside of my gum when I get that piece. It breaks off, and all of a sudden it's jabbing you on the inside of the jaw, and you're like, oh, it's as bad as getting a pizza burn on the roof of your mouth because it takes forever to heal. Crunchy taco shells, I love the crunch. I don't enjoy the flavor, but I like lettuce wraps. So use a lettuce wrap. Now the filling, you can use anything, right? Basically, you take the. I like to use a traditional taco seasoning, which is pretty straightforward. Now, I don't always use the traditional filling, which would be what we think in America, this ground beef that we used to use. However, I do really like if you can get ground buffalo, or if you can get ground lamb, or you get some other flavorful red meat. That's my favorite. If you're looking to go a little lighter, then you ground turkey, ground chicken, use whatever you want. Or if you have a chicken breast left in the fridge, just dice it up really small. Cook it about a third of the way. Add the spice mix. Cook it the rest of the way. Finish it in the oven if you need to, because you don't want to burn the spices. Super simple. But here's the mix that I use. This is pretty straightforward. It's not exact. It's about a tablespoon of chili powder, 1 teaspoon of ground cumin, and I'll link to this article. It's actually pretty interesting. 1 teaspoon of ground cumin. There's a half teaspoon of sweet paprika. I like smoked paprika as well as that. I add the smoke to that. A half teaspoon of dried oregano. 1/2 teaspoon of granulated garlic. Actually, I don't use granulated garlic. I use garlic powder. I think it mixes better, and you don't have the that granulated kind of the granular feeling if it doesn't cook all the way through, or you just happen to get the powder by itself. It's much better. 1/4 teaspoon of kosher salt. The same of onion powder. I'd actually double that. I'd go to a half teaspoon. You have about 1/8 of a teaspoon of ground cayenne pepper. I would either use cayenne. I like to add chipotle powder because it has that smoky jalapeno flavor. That smoked dried jalapeno is one of my all-time favorite heat additions to any food. It's my favorite in soups, especially a black bean soup or chicken tortilla soup, anything like that. So and then, you need a little bit of olive oil to cook, et cetera, et cetera. Now, when I do this, I like to add things like black beans. I'll season the black beans the same way. Basically, heat the beans in a pot. I just get the unsalted black beans, organic black beans from whatever brand you want. Open it. I do rinse them. I add a little chicken stock to them. I put in kosher salt, black pepper, a little bit of touch of cayenne, a lot of cumin, a bit of chili powder, and then fresh oregano, or dried oregano, and that's pretty much it on that one. Salt and pepper to taste, and that's really all you need. Garlic powder, and on this one, I like diced onion instead of the onion powder. I think that texture adds kind of what you need to make the dish complete. So you have your black beans. You have a little. If you have rice, that's great. You don't have to. I did not grow up with rice in my taco. Putting it in my tacos. So when I go to a restaurant now and they bring you the side plate of, it's got refried beans and it's got the whatever Mexican rice or this rice dish on the side, whether it's white or somehow treated. I'm not used to putting that in the taco shell. I typically leave it there. I'll put the beans in. I'll put the crema. I like Mexican crema, the thin sour cream that they have. Or you take just sour cream, add a little lime juice to it, a little salt. It's really good. I like that, and then pico de gallo and lettuce. But there's something about the rice. I don't. It's like putting rice in a burrito, it just doesn't feel right to me, right? It's a side dish. So all that together, and I really, again, when I'm cooking, whatever protein I'm going to use, there are a couple of things that I like to do that help season especially if it's a ground protein like ground meat. Then I like to start the cooking process over really high heat, right? If you're cooking a lot at one time, like a pound or more, like 2 pounds of ground meat, because you're going to have a larger group of people, or you just want to take some of that leftover and freeze it, which it freezes very well, by the way, as long as you get most of the air out. Once I start cooking it, like I'll do the onions first. I'll add the ground meat in if I'm doing onions. Add the ground beef in. If I do garlic, that goes in right after the onions start to cook. The problem is there's a lot of water in the onions, right? So I throw the ground meat protein in, and I start to stir it around in there and break it up. And before it really starts to cook too much, I add the spice at that time. And there's a couple of reasons. A, the aroma. I love this. I want to get that smell in the kitchen as quickly as possible. And B, that spice starts to absorb the liquid in the bottom of the pan. Starts to absorb that, and instead of losing all that flavorful cooking liquid that you have, it incorporates that into the dish. And it doesn't take long before the bottom of the pan is dry, and you have to stir like crazy to make sure that you don't burn stuff. You turn the heat down. But I like giving those the spices long enough during the cooking process to really start to release essential oils and get all that flavor releasing from the ground spices. It makes a big difference in how it tastes. For me, I can tell you if I cook it and then add it, or if I cook it with it, it's different. One of the reasons is the flavor gets incorporated all the way through the little ground piece of meat, right? That way you have flavor all the way through. Emerald used to say, you got to salt stuff on both sides, right? When nobody wants to eat one-sided. What is it? Food that only has flavor on one side. That's correct. You want to make sure the flavor goes all the way through what you're cooking, if possible. That's why we have these marinades, so on and so forth. This helps with that. I just think you get a better product. At that point, when it's cooked, it's done. You take it out. I don't let it cool. I go right on the plate. I do let it set in the pot for a minute before I dump it out. The reason is that as it sets, you're going to get some moisture that comes out, and then it's up to you whether or not you put that in the bowl for serving or not. Now, I like to scoop out the cooked product with a spoon and leave as much moisture in the bottom of the pan as possible. But I reserve that. I put it in a little bowl, and then when you take it to the table and you're assembling the tacos, or in this case, I just use we're basically making wraps, right? Lettuce wraps. As the meat sits at the table and starts to cool down, it starts to dry. So at first it's very moist. If you have all that moisture, it tends to, drip out of whether it's a taco shell or a lettuce cup, it doesn't matter. It gets all over you. It splatters on the plate. Chefs can't wear nice things. That's where we wear chef coats most of the time, and it stains your clothing. So I don't like to have that extra moisture in there until it's needed. And it doesn't take long. About 5 or 6 minutes after you sit at the table, invariably, it starts to dry out. So what do? You leave a spoon in that little bowl with the liquid that's reserved from the cooking process, and you just kind of moisten the whatever the protein is that you're eating. It's that simple. And then before you put it in the fridge at the end, just dump the rest of that juice on it, to get everything reincorporated into the ground meat. And then you put it in your bag, whatever it's a storage bag or your Tupperware container, and then you put it in the fridge. It will give you a better product over the next 2 or 3 days until you consume all that. What do I put in my tacos as far as the rest of the toppings? Again, I love that Mexican crema. You can buy that at pretty much every store. They have these jars that have a green lid on them. I don't remember the manufacturer, the dairy that makes those. It's in almost every grocery store though. They have a little dairy section that's Hispanic foods. It's always there. I love really sharp cheddar cheese, but you can get the taco blend, the Mexican blend that they have. If you want to go with something lower in calories, low like part skim mozzarella cheese is actually not bad, but you're gonna have to add some flavoring in there. Now, I don't like pickled jalapenos in my tacos, but I do love diced up raw jalapeno. But I always make sure that I cut them lengthwise. I cut the top off, cut them lengthwise. I scrape out the seed and that white pith, which is where all the heat mostly is, mostly in the seeds. And then I dice that really finely. And then, you can put it, I just set that on the side. You can incorporate that as you like, depending on how hot you want it. But 2 keys. Fresh cilantro leaves. One of my favorite things. And I take the cilantro, the whole bunch, and I just kind of tear the whole tops off and then break those into smaller pieces. So I'll rinse it really well because they tend to grow in kind of loamy, sandy soil. Rinse it really well, shake it off, and then just twist the whole top off. I pat it between a couple of paper towels, and then I just leave the paper towels wrapped around it in the fridge until it's time for service. And then I just break up those big pieces into, because I don't want little tiny, I don't want just the little leaves. I like part of the stem in there. It actually gives a great texture and great flavor. And then if you want to add some of that texture back in, again, this is an inside-out taco, literally. Instead of completely leaving the taco shell out of the picture, you can take some tortilla chips, break them up, and put them inside the lettuce wrap. There you have your crunch. That's pretty much it for today. Now, I do love, you can get a lot of flavor with very little calories. If you're trying to eat healthy, some of the best condiments you can use to provide flavor without calories are pretty much any salsa. Any called a salsa fresca, whether that's a pico de gallo type salsa, chunky style salsa, any roasted salsas, any purees, any of those, even the classics like Valentina, which is my favorite Mexican hot sauce, that Tapatio, Tia Maria, any of those wonderful hot sauces have virtually no calories. Now, if you're not eating tacos, mustard is a great one. Mustard is very low in calories, packed full of flavor. Talk about a punch. It's like a 2x4 to the forehead on a Tuesday, Taco Tuesday afternoon. But don't put mustard on there, please. Don't put mustard on your tacos, please. If you do, I want to see a picture on Twitter. Tag Spoony Radio on Twitter. I want to see the picture. And then, please, I'll look for it on Facebook as well. Anyway, another day has come and gone. We have had dessert, better known as tacos today for Taco Tuesday. Hey, check out the WFC. Follow them. Find someone to root for. And if you have a chance, try to cook something you've never cooked before. Today, tomorrow, or the next day. Again, ciao for now. Chef Patrick Mosher, Food Biz Pro. Have a good evening. We'll talk to you tomorrow.
This is the only 24-hour take-anywhere platform dedicated to food and fun. We're Spoony.
News this hour from townhall.com. I'm John Scott. President Trump is downplaying the escalating trade dispute between the U.S. and China as nothing more than a little squabble between friends. He says the U.S. is in a strong position with China.
They want to make a deal. It could absolutely happen. But in the meantime, a lot of money is being made by the United States and a lot of strength is being shown.